You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. And today I have Chip Edwards. And because of Chip's line of work developing smart speaker skills for podcasters, please do not listen to this specific episode on your smart speaker. And we are not going to be using the keywords to wake these smart speakers, because I have learned over the years of podcasting, and I never realized until I got a smart speaker myself why podcasters don't use those keywords. And then I realized if I use those keywords accidentally, hey Amazon smart speaker, hey Google smart speaker, they'll go off. So so that's my programming announcement, and I'm going to let Chip take it away.
All right, great. Thank you, Wynn, for having me here today. I'm very much excited about talking about smart speakers and probably a little bit broader than smart speakers, more voice technology, because we think about smart speakers and how we can talk to them and they talk back to us, but that same technology they put in our phones and they put in our cars and they're putting them in the latest thing they're putting them in is called wearables, where I can actually they're putting them in like earbuds, so I can be at the gym and my earbuds are listening to me, or in glasses where my glass frames are now hearing me and being able to respond back to me. So this voice technology is getting pretty big, and they're putting it everywhere because it makes it so convenient for us to be able to get to compute resources. I mean, we can have computers do stuff for us without sitting in front of computers now. We just ask them and they're listening to us and they can do stuff for us.
Yes, which is scary. And people keep laughing at me because I keep saying I use my Amazon toy as a assistive device because I have cerebral palsy. And people like, what? You use that as a assistive device? And when people watch me do it, it's like, now I get what she's saying. Win is not making this up. Win is actually using it as a assistive device. And so, but my question for you, and I know you do this all the time, is tune in the way to do it or develop a skill yourself? Or I've been interested in that question since I got home from Podcast Movement, from Podfest, sorry, not Podfest Movement, Podfest. But do you think tuning is a way to do it, or developing one of these skills yourself?
So that's actually a really good question, and it depends on what kind of content you have. So if you're a podcaster, so we'll start there. Podcasters have the opportunity to put their podcast on TuneIn or on Apple or Google Podcasts. So if you make your podcast available through one of those services, then the devices will play the latest episode of your podcast when people ask for it. But only podcasters kind of have that capability. So if I'm a blogger, I don't have that capability, or if I'm a business, I don't have that capability. But Microsoft and Google both made it so that if you're a podcaster or a blogger or a business or school, any of those, you can make it so that your audience can get to your content and hear it through the smart speaker. And that's where we talk about skills and actions or voice apps kind of generically, where you can put a voice app out there and connect your content in. So now people can just talk to these devices and get your content. Or if I'm a business, this is how I actually can engage my audience with through smart speakers. I build a voice app and now I can have my audience talk to me and I can talk back through these devices and I can kind of engage with them through smart speakers.
Yes, because I lost my father in May of 2019, and because he knew I had cerebral palsy, he knew that I was using assistive technology, IT, AT all the time, but for the longest time, he didn't want me to have any sort of smart speaker. And fortunately, my birthday was the month after he died. So my step family kind of overruled him and basically gave me a smart speaker. They hand me they hand me a bag. They say open up the bag. I literally hugged the box because it's um it's the Amazon toy. And so I have used it since June 22nd, 2019, and I love it dearly. And but my point being is for those who are old school, and I'm saying that in air quotes, um, how do we convince them that Amazon and Google are not peeping toms? That was my dad's number one concern, that Amazon and Google will spy on you. And how can we talk to the older generations about, okay, they're wonderful assistive devices, they won't spy on you. You can essentially activate your voice and get music, you can get podcasts, you can get anything you want.
So that's a good point, and the only thing I would change in your question is that a lot of people that are using these devices are actually, um, how do I say it? Older people. So it's not necessarily the older generation that is reluctant to use these devices. My parents have it, and they're in their 70s. That
Okay.
there's actually a lot of capabilities that these devices give to people as they age. And so but this idea around privacy, that people are concerned that these devices
Yeah,
are
yeah, and
invading their
that's
privacy.
what my
Yes.
dad's concern
Yes. Yeah,
was.
yeah.
That's what my dad's concern was, that,
Mhm.
well, he didn't even, at the end, he didn't even use Google. So,
Right.
um, at the end, he didn't like Google. So, Google being search engine, not Google, the smart speaker. So, I ju you have to be careful with all the privacy aspects, and you can fine tune these um, privacy aspects to the devices themselves. But you're right, older people are using
Mhm.
these devices to help
Yes.
them, and the
Yeah,
disabled are using these devices to help them. I give up. I give
yeah.
up. I'll bark and squawk all day about assistive technology if you let me.
Yeah, and you're It's kind of interesting. You're bringing up the idea of assistive technology. So I go around the country speaking about voice technology and how there's a lot of opportunities with voice technology. And my first talk, it was in Atlanta, and I had a room full of people, and they were web developers, and I was talking about, hey, this is what's happening in in the industry that is going to be really important as web developers, that that you are prepared for the shift into voice technology, because our audience, I mean, there's 70 million people in the US that have these devices. I mean, that's, a third to half of the households in the United States have a smart speaker in them, and that doesn't count the phones. Because if we talk about smartphones with this voice technology in it, I mean, almost everybody has a phone with voice technology in it. So the idea of the assistive technology. So what I was going to say there, after my first talk, it was interesting. I had a couple people come up to me and they said, you gave this talk about smart speakers and voice technology, but really that was a a, a an assistive technology talk in disguise. Because what we're finding is that as developers and designers and content producers, it's really important. That in the past it used to be, okay, I'm making my website, I'm making this content available for people that can read and can actually access it. And oh yeah, let's think about people that have impairments later, and we'll kind of maybe help them out if it
Yep.
helps us. But
Yes.
in the future, I have to make my content and my process available through voice technology, because now it's not just people that need assistance, it's everybody. It's the mom cooking breakfast that wants to get to that
Yes.
blog. It's the
Yes.
person driving to work that wants to
Yes.
hear that, you know. So it's
Yes.
everybody that's going to want it, not just people that need help.
It's people. It's people who have motor skill devices. It's also people that want that have their hands tied on the computers, and they can't get off of what they were doing to get up to to get up to turn on the music. I mean, it's everyone nowadays. It's not just assistive tech. It's not just people that need it as assistive technology, you guys.
Right, it's everybody. I mean, it's even, we've got one client that, it's a school, and this is an easy way for them to let their parents know, here's what's for lunch, or hey, today's a snow day, so I can be cooking breakfast and I can just ask, hey, is today a snow day? Or hey, what's for the lunch for kids today? Or how are the sports team
Exactly.
doing? In other words, I can be doing something, and I can be interacting with the content that the school
Ex
has.
exactly, and yeah, as I've been explaining on and off, I mean, it's like, hello,
Mhm.
we have our hands tied now, and we're working from home, so people will yell and scream to their assistive devices, one by Amazon, one by Google, and say, "Hey, you play Pandora, you play whatever," and it's wonderful. And how I have mine set up, and I say a wake word, and then I say good morning, and that's my good morning starts, "Good morning, sunshine. Here is the weather report for Aspen, Colorado. Here's your news." And that's how I start every single morning. And I go from the my local weather report to the New York to New and the Newsworthy by Ann Commandy, and then I go across the country, if I feel like it, to
Right.
all these different news sources, whereas older people, those who want to use the internet, they were doing it. At least my dad was doing it. He would sit there for a good hour reading all across the country, and I'm like, I can do that in 2 seconds flat with my
Right.
voice.
Yes, and that you brought up a good point. It's called a flash briefing on the Amazon
Yeah,
side, and people can develop skills that actually will let you add additional content. And so you could put out a morning briefing from Win, and people could then add it to their morning routine and hear your morning briefing from them, just adding it
let's
into their content.
let's talk about that
Yeah,
for a couple minutes. Yeah, I tried to do it. I tried to do it, you guys, but I couldn't get the Amazon blueprint to work. And so is there a trick I'm missing to do this?
so Amazon did a good job with building that blueprint, so a lot of people can use that to be able to build their own. It works pretty good, but there are some tricks to it, and that's kind of why that's what my company does. Is we actually build the skills. We use we don't use the blueprints because that's kind of
Yeah,
a
layman's
yeah,
layman.
basically. So we build the more bulletproof one
Yeah,
versions of them
yeah,
for
yeah,
skills
yeah,
for either flash
yeah,
briefings or full skills is
yeah.
what we do.
And
Yeah,
now I I want to ask you this, and then we'll get to basic questions. But
yeah.
I noticed that on the Amazon, oh, the Amazon smart speaker, I'll just put it that way because I almost said a liquid. But the Amazon smart speaker, I'm noticing that she won't automatically play a podcast, and I've been told that Google is getting to the point where it will,
So automatically playing a podcast. So so
in a flash briefing, so to speak.
the um so there are some requirements for setting up to be able to play a podcast. There's the biggest requirement that most podcasters don't have to change how they do things is it can't be more than 10 minutes. But I'll be honest with you. If you have 10 minutes of content, nobody's going to put that in their morning briefing.
No, no,
So you've got
no,
to have a really short thing, 30
yes,
seconds, 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. You go over that and people aren't going to include it anymore. So you've got to have really short content and it's got to be fresh and new every day for it to be able to work. So, but there are some limitations that if you go outside of them, Amazon won't play them.
okay.
Yeah.
So what about I've been told that on the Google side, you can, and a lot of people have Googles and they also have Amazons here. So I've been told on Google side that you can actually set a podcast to your alarm clock. Is that correct?
Ooh, that's a good question. So Amazon has so Google they're both doing a lot of work to be able to make the devices kind of part of our daily routine and
Yeah.
integrate with stuff. Now, I've not heard that alarm clock one on the Google side. I have to take a look at that and see exactly how they're hooking that up.
Yeah.
But it would not surprise me because both of them are trying to make it so that we can't live without this
No,
technology. I mean,
no,
that's what they're doing.
we
They know.
can't.
I mean, it was over a year ago that Amazon reported they had 10,000 employees working on their Alexa stuff. So, I mean, Amazon and Google are know that I mean, they're making huge commitments because they know this is where we're going as a society. It's gonna be too convenient to and that we're not gonna take the time to sit at our computer to do something or pull
No.
out our phone. It's gonna be take too much work to pull our phone out when we can just ask for what we want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
And I wish, although the Amazon Dot is the smaller one, and I wish that I could have Amazon Dot on my desk right here, but the funny thing was I had 2 Amazon smart stickers in this house at once, and, yeah, don't ask how long story why, but, I we had a little bit of a problem because every time I would say to mine, um, the Lakewood and everything else, the other one would go off, and it was uh, m- m- a master of mess because now I know they communicate with each other, but I didn't know that they could do that so easily. I mean, I'm laughing because you would think that I and this dot was in the next room. I'm in the one room. The person's dot was in the other room, and so it's like, oh my goodness, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, what do we? So I know that they can communicate with each other along with Google's Homes, but is there a way that? And I know you could transfer podcast to them to one another, but is there a way to basically silence one and only deal with one? Because for me to get another one, I would have the same mess I had previously.
So
And
so
yeah,
if they're both if both Amazon devices are connected to the same Amazon account, they actually will talk to each other, and the closest one is supposed to listen to you and respond to you, and the other one is supposed to say, "Oh, that one's got it," because they talk to each other. Yeah,
okay.
but if they're on different accounts, they don't know about each other, and so they both might be
Ah,
going off
that
and stuff like that.
that
So they
was
gotta
it.
yeah, yeah, they've gotta both be on the
That's
same
what
Amazon
that
account,
was
and
it,
then yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. So that
yeah,
was it.
yeah. Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
I,
yes, yeah,
I
and
skipped
with it yeah, and
to
if they're on the same account, you could actually stop one and then go over to the other, and or you can have them play on both of them. So you could
yeah,
say, "Hey, I
no,
wanna play this on both
yeah,
devices at the
I
same
was
time." Yeah, yeah,
now
and they'll sync up, yeah.
I I was standing I literally was standing at the top of my stairs and yelling at the other dot and saying to Lakewood, "Stop!" because
Yeah.
it's like it's got chaos. It's got chaos. Don't don't ask why. Don't ask why I had 2 assistive devices and one of them was not mine. And but I'm like, okay, so if they're hooking up to 2 separate Amazon accounts in the same house, it's uh
That's a bad situation. Yeah, yeah.
bad
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, 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 yeah. If they're
I
on the same
feel
account, better, yes.
it's better. Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I feel d
They'll work together if they're on the
they
same
work
account. Yeah.
together they work together on the same account.
Yeah, yeah,
But, Chip, I have a question for you.
yeah. Uh-huh.
What is your favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book. So I've got a can I give you a couple of them? Because
Yeah,
I've got several.
yes,
Okay.
you
So,
can.
okay, good. So my favorite book, and this is gonna tell probably a lot about me. Favorite book is the Bible. Favorite book about the Bible is called The Attributes of God from Pink. And then if we go outside of religion, my, let's see, the outside of religion, um, uh, Amusing Ourselves to Death by Postman. That's a excellent book. It was done back in the 80s, I think, but it's so apropos today. So that Amusing Ourselves to Death by Postman. And then if we go, let's see, nonfiction, I would say um uh Atlas Shrugged, probably, by Ayn Rand. So that's probably my group of, if you ask me in any of the categories, those would kind of be the top of my list, is what I would say.
And to
Books,
tie it
book wise.
back, to tie it back to the Amazons and
Hmm.
Google,
Hmm.
they have a skill on Audible.
Hmm.
Audible. And yes, they have a skill. And my books, my own books, are
Hmm.
on Audible, you guys. So yes,
Great.
uh, go read, go read, go read it via your voice,
Mhm.
and go just read a book while you're sitting on the computer working. And, and
Absolutely.
so, if your best friend had to write a book about you, what would the title be?
Oh, I would hope if my best friend wrote a book about me, it would probably be um, either He Cares or Dependable. I think those would be probably the tops. I would hope one of those would be the top of the
Yeah,
list for
yeah,
a
yeah,
book title.
yeah. You would hope. So
Yeah.
your BFF is nothing going to write is not going to write about he's into technology. Nope.
Oh, yeah, probably not. I mean,
No.
maybe because I like
Maybe,
technology, but probably
maybe
not. I don't
not.
think so. I mean,
Yeah.
we're so much more than technology. Technology is just a tool,
Yes.
but as
Technology.
people, we're way. I mean,
We want,
technology is just a toy.
yes.
It's
Technology.
a toy we rely on and we can't live without, but it's
It's a
still just a toy.
toy. And so I know you have questions for me. I know that because you texted when you filled out the form. So go ahead and ask me it. Ask me those questions.
So I know you've got an Amazon Alexa because I've heard that in some of your podcasts that
Yes,
it goes off sometimes if you
yes.
if it, if you if you say it wrong exactly. But have you used the Google Assistant?
I have I used the
Yeah,
Google Assistant?
yeah.
No, I haven't.
Mhm,
And do I want one? Yes.
mhm,
I'm because I not to say that Amazon, I don't how am I gonna put this? I'll just put it this way, you guys. Amazon has a hard time understanding me, and
mm,
she also has a hard time understanding my girlfriend, which my
mm,
girlfriend, who's my assistant, has a heavy speech impediment. You guys
yeah,
know that by now. And so if these smart speakers have a hard time understanding us as individuals with speech impediments. So I'm looking for one that actually understands me more
mm,
than the Amazon ecosystem does,
yeah,
because I hate to be picky, but I love my Amazon
mm,
toy dearly. But at the same time, when she goes off and she goes off in spurts, and I don't even say anything, it's yeah, because Chip caught it. And so when I'm recording a podcast on Monday mornings, and she'll go up at random times, and then I have to stop and say the liquid stop. And
mhm,
so it's like, okay, is there anything I can do? So no, I'm that's gonna be my next
mhm,
investment in me here. I'm looking for one that actually understands my cadence of my speech
yeah.
and I know they're getting better and better every day, but have I tried the Google voice assistant As a smart speaker, no, I haven't, but I have tried Google search. I have tried voice typing in Google Docs.
Mhm.
And Google actually, even though they're on a weaker side, Google picks up more than the Apple side. Honestly, I mean, sometimes the Apple side just gets on my nerves, whereas and I no, I don't have a,
Mm.
Apple Smart Speaker either,
Yeah.
um, and so I haven't tried the Google yet, but
Mhm.
I want to,
Mhm.
want to.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate goal. If I ever had to get rid of the Amazon side and just go with the Google side, I would, try it because I know they're getting better and better every single day.
Yeah, they're both putting a lot of energy into getting better, but it's from my perspective, Google is like a master at figuring out what you want. I mean, even if they can't turn your voice into text really well, if they can get a couple of words, I mean, even when we're typing on the Google search bar, how many characters in does it take before it completes your sentence
Yeah,
for you? Because
yeah,
it knows what you
yeah,
want. So it's
exactly,
like it just needs to know
exactly.
enough of what you're saying to be able to say, "Oh, I know what she's asking." I mean,
Yeah,
even if I can't figure out all the words, I can figure out all the
you
words.
you you
So
out all the ones. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's why I love assistive technology. I
yeah,
love it, love it, love it.
yeah,
And for years, I, you guys don't know this, but I started using assistive technology back in the 90s,
yeah.
and man, my goodness, it's changed since
Oh yeah.
I was growing up and with
Mhm.
my speech impediment. So assistive technology has gotten better, but no, I haven't tried Google Google Home yet. I should and I will, but I haven't tried Google Home yet. But there is, if I was going to get one, I would stick it on my desk.
Mhm.
I would stick it on my desk. I thought about sticking Amazon toy in my bathroom, and it doesn't play well with water. It would, so yeah,
Yeah.
we gave that one up, but, because radio is dying and because all these radio stations are turning to Amazon and Google and putting their money where the mouth is and going with the next generation of technology, I have a radio on the back of my bathroom door, and I think it's dead. Number one, it's dead. Number two, I don't think I could ever find a FM station on the dang thing because every radio station is turning to digital and smart speaker media.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of people are really adopting these devices. From a company perspective, I have content I wanna get out, and they're really moving to be, building skills on Amazon and actions on Google for 2 reasons. One of them is because they know that's how they're gonna interact with their audience in the future. I mean, now and more in the
Yeah,
future. And the
yeah,
second main reason that they're really doing that is because, that's where they're gonna own their brand. So this whole idea of an invocation name is where you put your brand on these devices, and now people interact with you as a brand through that
yeah,
invocation name. And so
yeah.
that's why they're really jumping in and getting there ahead of time so they make sure they've got their brand out there,
And
early.
now, as
Mhm,
we sit in these trying times, aka the coronavirus,
mhm.
now Google and Amazon are being used more than ever to entertain kids,
Oh,
to
yeah.
entertain adults,
Mhm,
to entertain everyone else because, yeah, because it's because.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we're
And
finding it convenient to use. Yes.
we'll find it coming to you at the least I know. But so do you have any other questions for me?
So the only other question that I'd really like to know is, what do you wish these things could do? I mean, as
Oh,
people start building out and make them do
oh,
more, what do you wish
well,
this voice technology could do?
I and this is my big thing. I wish that people with heavy speech impediments or people that are deaf, I wish that
Mm,
Amazon and Google would come in and make it more assistive technology
mm,
friendly because I am I that is my biggest thing. I'm the voice for the voiceless now. And so the I wish these smart speakers would come in and do a little testing on people with speech impediments and say, how could we make it better? And yes, I do use voice to type on my iPhone. Yes,
mhm.
I do use that. But with that, it's it still has a hard time picking it up. So I wish that Apple would work with me, and yes, Apple, if you're listening, I'm available. And so I wish these big companies, i.e. Google and i.e. Amazon and i.e. Apple, would turn to us who have disabilities and say, how can we make it better for the disabled population?
So basically, use some of the they're devoting so many resources into building things out. Devote some of those resources into people that actually could benefit from them more than
Yeah,
just the general population, even.
yes. I mean,
Yeah, good.
yeah, ex
Mhm.
exactly. My dad got diagnosed with lung cancer, and for those of you that don't know, lung cancer definitely affects the voice because it's pressing on the lungs.
Right.
He was so weak at the end, he could barely say, "I love you." But for those who are on their deathbeds and want to play music but don't have the strong voice capabilities to say, "Hey, the Lakewood, play the Pink Floyd," and I'll get to why I say that in a minute. But I want these assistive devices to be able to work with people with disabilities. And the reason why I threw the Pink Floyd in is because my dad at one point worked for the Pink Floyd. He also worked for
Oh,
Bob Dylan. Thank you
uh-huh.
very much.
Wow.
So if these devices if the weak could use the voices to say, "Hey, the Wakewood, play the Bob Dylan," that would make me so happy because
Mhm,
um, a lot of these devices and a lot of these devices are used for everyday people
mhm.
without speech impediments, without neurological disabilities. Gee, and so I wish that Amazon and Google and Apple now, because Apple's in the game, could look at the special needs population and say, how can we make it better for you guys?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, and maybe it's not voice, maybe it's some other device that integrates with these devices to make them, smarter, but yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
great idea is to
like,
make them, you
um,
know.
or
Yeah.
have a switch that
Mhm.
people can that people can touch. those with limited motor mobilities
Right.
could touch and activate Alexa
Mhm.
and activate Google and act Alexa stop. See, that was good. You guys, you guys probably heard that. So I wish that these smart speakers could do what the disabled population
Mm.
needs them to
Mm.
do.
Good.
Because I am finding that the disabled population who can't speak, and I'll be handing this to when this episode comes out, I'll be handing this to a couple disabled friends of mine. And
Right.
they, ha- I just wish that these smart speakers would make it work
Mm.
for all of us, not
Mm.
the everyday humans that want to use them.
Yeah. Good one. Good one.
So, yes. And Chip, where can people find you if they have a podcast or if they just want their voice on Alexa?
So you can find me at on my website, createmyvoice.com, createmyvoice.com, and we help people with podcasts and blogs and businesses and yeah, schools. So anybody that wants to engage their audience through these devices, we definitely want to talk.
Well, yeah, you have a couple of new fans out there, me being one of them, and Maxwell Ivy, the blind
Mm.
blogger, you helped him, and I
Mhm.
have yet to discover the No Excuses show on Alexa, but I can't wait to see what the future holds for these smart speakers, and I'm honored that Chip took the time today to come on and explain the latest and greatest technology. And I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys are staying happy, staying safe, and staying sane, and using all the toys out there that will keep you entertained. And yes, if you guys want to follow me, that's by all means, do you guys know where to find me by now? Facebook, Twitter, my website, and everything else. And because I am a disabled rights advocate, I can go in and talk about assistive technology until the cows come home, you guys. So just be aware of that. And I will catch you guys later. Bye, you guys.
You just listened to Ask Win, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwin.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.